Evening, everybody. We will a lot to cover tonight. Welcome. Welcome to we've two members of the public that are here to speak this evening, so we'll take that in a moment. We've also got John Ford, who's here to address a couple of the items that we have on, well, to speak generally on maintenance contract, etc. So, we'll go to public question time first then. Suspend standing orders, yes?
So we'll suspend standing orders so that there's the opportunity for members of the public to speak for up to 3 minutes, take questions from the committee and answer the questions as well. And we've got Sally Burkhead, who's here from the Home Firth Christmas team.
Hi.
Hi, Sally.
Hi. I come here to just represent the group. As we rely quite heavily on your contribution each year from the parish council, which is towards lighting up the theme of Christmas and a Christmas celebration. We set up as a community group in 2016 to take over from what was a bit of a disaster that year in Home Firth, and Rachel Hogley, who you'll be familiar with, took up the reins, and I haven't got the heart to say no, I won't help you. So we took it from there. She is hard to resist, and I had somebody previously had said they would take it on, and then in September decided they couldn't do it. So we took it on. And since then, we've managed to raise money from the businesses and some from the community. We do get donations occasionally from people in the community, and we now can light up the buildings in Home Firth with trees as well, a few trees and some very high quality LED lights. And we've put up now over 3 kilometres of lights around the town. They're all put up by volunteers, the whole team are volunteers, nobody is paid to do anything to put them up and take them down, but we do rely very heavily on your contribution as well as contributions from the businesses. Last year, each year really, roughly the expenditure is around about £5,000 on strings of lights replacements because of the weather, etc. Some vandalism, occasionally things get torn down, just general wear and tear that we need to replace things. The insurance, which is around about £500, but will probably more this year, I would think. Some street entertainment in the form of music and some actual street entertainers this year that we're going to have is in the region. Last year it was £1,100. Again, I think that may come in similarly, if not slightly more. And then also we maintain the bus station strings of lights, which just recently cost £1,100, and we've just been quoted because it's hanging down. You've probably noticed again round Sainsbury's, and we were quoted another further £1,200 to put that back up again. So there's lots of expenditure going out. So yes, your £1,000 contribution that we've had previously, 500 one year, is very welcome. Yeah, very welcome indeed. So
Yes, Sally.
yes,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, any questions from anybody before we move on from this item? We are, of course, voting on this later on in this meeting.
Okay.
It's an agenda item, but does anyone have any questions of Sally while she's here?
Sally, do you want to let me have your phone number and I'll give you a ring tomorrow about the
Super.
outcome of the
Yes,
meeting?
it's 07935 045 229.
That should be taken off the recording.
It will be.
Thank you. That's super.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will pop off and leave you to your business. Thank you. Okay, bye.
We also have a member of public, Doug Starring, here as well. Welcome. welcome.
Hiya, yeah, probably should just say why I'm here really, because I'm obviously wearing a different hat now. Back in spring 22, I was the vice chair of this committee actually, we started talking about increasing the allocation for youth funds. So the budget went from 8,000 to 25,000. And there's a paper on the agenda, item 42, that you're discussing this evening. I've been on the working group with that, where in my work out, I work part-time for an organisation called the Valleys Anchor, which is like supporting voluntary and community projects in the Home Valley and the Calne Valley and Meltham. And just to very briefly talk about that, it's been a phenomenal piece of work actually. Since we knew that money was a possibility, Councillor East used to chair this committee, and when we allocated that budget, or requested that budget, and then in more recent times, Charles Greaves has been involved in the discussions, as has Glenn and Isaac came to the last meeting. So we've been having a gathering of various sort of stakeholders, and the last meeting actually we also had representation from Meltham Town Council, because we're looking to try and replicate a similar type of arrangement to try and get some youth provision in Meltham. We're very fortunate in this area. I know I'm an ex-youth worker by trade, that's what I used to do many years ago. We've still got 4 youth provision activities. In Honley we've just managed to reopen the activity at the community centre. Honley Youth have still got funds and hopes to do work in the area. Cafe 100's just reopened, and I met with Matilda who's working there last week, and I'm meeting her tomorrow. And we've got the Phoenix Club that runs 2 provision. We've also got actually Waldale, which isn't really part of this, but there's a small voluntary run club in Waldale run by Lisa Senior. And that just doesn't happen anywhere else. So it's fantastic really that we've got volunteers and other organisations stepping up to provide youth work. And obviously this money will be really helpful. So I've been working with Suzanne Greenwood, who's not here tonight, who wrote the reports. That's given quite a lot of detail, because for the parish that's a lot of money to invest in a project, and it's a new project in that scale. So I guess you may have questions on that report, so I can hang around to basically take any questions on it. But I would say, as an ex-youth worker, as an ex-parish councillor, and somebody who's supporting community projects, that's going to go quite a long way, and it's going to really improve the quality of the youth provision we've got in the valley. So I'm happy to take questions. I don't know if you want to. I don't know how you want to chair, if you want to.
I think what I'd like to do, just for everyone's information here, we're going to sort of rejig the agenda a bit in terms of the order of it this evening, okay? Both in terms of this particular item, and we're going to bump this up and deal with it in just a moment. So I'm going to suggest we don't have any questions at this moment, but we do. But you know, it would be very helpful if people contribute to that when we discuss it in a few minutes. And also, John Ford is with us tonight to report, and it's all right. I'm not asking you to repeat. Settle down, John. And we're going to bump this up the agenda a bit as well. Is that okay with anyone? Does anyone approve of that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Thanks, Dad. We'll come back to that. So, in that case, we will move on to promptly if I'm getting anything wrong with this. So we have the public question time. We'll resume on the agenda. We are recording. Does anybody else need to record or want to record a meeting separately from what we're doing? No. Thank you. Apologies for absence.
Yes, so apologies have been already sent out. So the first thing for the committee to do is to consider the apologies and reasons for absence as presented via email before this meeting.
Everyone in favour?
Yeah.
Yeah, and against? Can I also say that we pass on best wishes to Councillor Firth?
Yes, yes, and just to say that regarding that, so it will be noted the dispensation for Councillor Firth will be noted in full council on the 9th of October as well.
Thank you. So that sounds nice and finished, yes. Okay. Personal disclosable pecuniary interests in any items.
I am a trustee of Honley Library, but I'm a parish council trustee, so I think I'm allowed to stay and join in.
I think it's for the the committee to decide whether
Are you in the
to.
same position?
I'm in exactly the same position.
Does anyone have any problems with any other interest to declare at this point?
Yes. I'm the council trustee on the Holmfirst Civic Hall.
There's no personal gain in any of these
No.
particular roles. Anyone else want to declare anything?
Yeah, I'm a trustee for Honda Youth, which obviously is linking into the Honda Youth proposal.
You're not going for the job as youth officer?
No.
No, right, in that case. Anybody else, anything you want to declare? Okay, does anybody have any objections to those who declared an interest still taking part in the debate and voting? I think.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any objections to that? No? Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Moving on, item 29.
Yes, so receipt of updated disclosable personal and pecuniary interest forms. I did email out a revised form for Councillor Bailey earlier today with a request that once you've looked at it, could you please delete it? So that is to be considered and put to the vote, and then it can be noted. So I'm prepared to accept. You need a nominator and a seconder.
Okay, all in favour? Thank you. Item 30 is any items on the agenda to be discussed in private session. Can you suggest that there are at least 2 items, I think,
Yes.
that will be done in private session?
Yes, so item 232440, the Gartside Buildings update, because that is potentially commercially sensitive, suggesting that that is heard in private session, and also the item regarding stocks, the minibus service, which I'm just going to find a number of,
It's 43.
43, and that also to be heard in private session for the same reason.
Do you propose a seconder?
You do need a proposal
Proposal.
seconder.
Steve Ransby, and Isaac as well.
Yep.
So, all in favour? Thank you. It's carried. Right, we will, I suggest that we take the youth, no, I suggest actually perhaps we take Johnny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so item 232438, that's going to be brought forward now, and standing order suspended in order to allow John to speak. You do need a proposer and seconder to cover those things, both bringing forward the item and suspending standing orders.
Back on now, okay? All in favour? Thank you. John, you're on, mate.
Thanks.
John, just introduce, there's several people who have been not met here.
I'm John Ford. I'm the maintenance contractor for Thorn Valley Parish Council. I'm responsible for looking after benches, bush shelters, 26 of, telephone boxes, just making sure that they're clean and tidy and not damp. The toilets, we look after the toilets. That's a toil of a pleasure, but we get it done. And all the other assets belonging to the parish council. 200 benches, I've got to mention that. It's an ongoing thing throughout the summer, where we trim, sweep, paint, and generally fettle up and refurbish benches which have fallen into disrepair. New legs, new lats. And then when it comes to winter time, it's just the benches which are on hard standings, without grass, so we keep it to a minimum as best we can. The graveyard, we maintain 3 times, the graveyard at Sun Hill, which is a closed graveyard, we maintain 3 times a year. And that is something I want to talk about.
We'll perhaps come back to that in just a moment.
And also the toilets. I'd like to talk to you about the toilets. can we just keep talking about this? Not to ask me some questions on stuff. I've got a beard about it about the toilets this weekend. They're an absolute catastrophe.
Well, go on with that then, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, and allow people to ask questions afterwards. Yeah.
Well, there are three in the toilets as they stand now. There are 3 cubicles in the ladies, 1 cubicle in the men's, and 2 urinals. And it was just a constant stream of people in and out. I called down just after 1:30 to do a check and change toilet rolls and disinfect and whatever. And it was just woefully inadequate. There were people trying to get past me as I'm trying to change toilet rolls. There was mess on the floor. They broke into my office, not my office, the baby change room, which I keep locked because it becomes a sex room if we leave it unlocked. And somebody, excuse my language, somebody shit in the bin.
Oh.
They burst in, pulled the lock off, did the business in the bin, so I had to repair the door before I could leave. Toilet rolls, they ripped them off the walls, and they're £3 a piece these, and they were soggy, wet, so I had to change at least 4 big jumbo toilet rolls. It's an expensive situation. So I was going to say to you that next year, perhaps, they have separate portaloos positioned, not even adjacent to the toilets, but somewhere completely different. Just to relieve the pressure on the toilets. We didn't have any blockages this year, like we did last year. That was awful. The cash that came from the weekend was a good haul. I think it took about 160 quid. I emptied the box this morning. I could just by the weight roughly what it is. Alison deals with the banking and what have you. They're ready for a bit of a refurbishment actually. I know they were only done like 5 years ago, but they're ready for the floors. The floors are totally inappropriate. They're rough hewn pressed tiles, and we just can't get them clean. I pressure wash them, disinfecting, bleach. We've got scrubbing stuff, but they just will not come clean. I could suggest some sort of vinyl covering which goes partly up the wall would see to a lot of this, just make it a bit more hygiene, because we just can't get them clean. They just look grubby all the time, no matter what we do to them. And we're going to go down there with some paint up, so just generally smarten the place up. The take-ins at the toilets are roughly
Can we just describe how the takings, how the donations are given or received?
That's the takings of the years of
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I was looking at the agenda.
Well, we worked out that this evening that they were averaging about £8.67 a day, which is £60.62 a week. That Tom's just given me this, which is, that's 2018 to 19 with 4,531. 1920, 4,854. 2021, 1774, that was COVID. Then they came back a bit, 21, 22. That was roughly around the time when we refurbished, about 18 or 19, I can't
I think it was about 18 or 19, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was before COVID, wasn't it?
And then they seem to just gone downhill, but before that they were averaging about £11 a day, but they're averaging about 8 now. So
Thank you.
that's what I worked out.
Do you want to just describe that for those who don't know how that goes? Basically, you've got a little thing.
Yeah, there's a trough. There's a big metal box which I've bolted into the wall with a slit that you can put your money in. I put big silver 20p signs on this thing just to encourage people to put money in. But I see more arms in there than I do coins. I'll have to send them kids off with a flea in the day before today. So what I've done, I've put a plastic barrier. So you've got to put your coins in, but I've put screws in it as well. So if you get your hand in, you can't get it out. I don't want to put raisin blades or barbed wire. But anything to just to distract you. What do you mean?
240 volts.
240 volts. Yeah,
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, so I'll try anything to discourage people from trying to pinch. I put 2 big padlocks on it, because the ones that were on it when it came fitted were easily bendable. They're forever taking it apart. What else can I say about that coin box? It has been the focus of kids trying to get money out of it during the school holidays especially. It's always around school holidays when we get the most vandalism. Right, I wrote, I don't know if you've all got a copy of that little report I wrote out. Somebody's been writing on the walls, I think it was something Ukrainian. I think it was Rich said he translated it for us, something written in Ukrainian, but it was unsavoury. But fortunately they had the wit to use washable pens, so it came off quite easily. Graffiti in the bus shelters has drastically reduced since I changed the corporate colour from bitter chocolate to magnolia. Yeah. When it was bitter chocolate, all the bus shelters were dark brown. They were just hidey holes. So now I've changed them for magnolia. If no one can hide in the corners, then it seems to be a lot cleaner. Windows we get smashed on a regular basis, so I've stopped putting glass in. I just make the frames tidy. It just becomes too much of a liability if you keep putting glass in. It's expensive, so don't bother. The bush shelter on Long Lane Cross Lane at Honley was the last dark brown one, and I left it because there was a beautiful piece of graffiti in there. It was quite psychedelic, and I quite liked it actually. But it was a den for doing business in and dealing. So, because of the local packets, which was the obvious signs. Anyway, we got permission, took the window out and painted it magnolia. And it's been clean since. Even the council are using it to store barriers in at the moment. So, it's found a purpose.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You said you wanted to say a bit more about the graveyard.
The graveyard, yeah, the graveyard. We do that 3 times a year. We do it 3 times a year. And I have to say, it's a bit dangerous. It's dangerous on I've got public liability insurance and employers liability insurance and what have you, but the graveyard is, I'm not being funny, but it's full of holes. Not yeah. And if you must never string back, never maintain it backwards, always go forwards. That's what I tell the lads, because there are metal spikes and holes to break your ankles. It's something, if someone could take it off us and do it, I would be quite welcome to hand that contract over to somebody else. It's not a job we enjoy doing.
I'll bring this up as an item for discussion as well in just a moment, actually.
Because
Are the holes subsidence or what?
I don't know.
I can answer that. For the last 5 years I've helped maintain as a volunteer the cemetery in Honley. The sunken graves. So these historic Victorian graves would have 4 or 5 coffins piled in.
Oh,
And they just all run down. So you can go down at least a metre. And we've filled a lot of ours.
Right.
So that you can just mull over the top of them.
Yeah.
But it's, there's like 5 or 6 of us have gone in the past 2 hours on a Monday afternoon, and it's taken us 5 years and they're still not all quite full. But the other unsafe thing is the monuments as well.
Yes, the monuments, yeah.
So bearing in mind that's just the thing about the holes here.
Thank you.
And spikes.
Spikes, yeah, when they cut the railings off during the war, they were left. The spikes are still there.
I've seen
The ones that had railings round the grave rolling.
But sometimes I don't know where they all are, but they're in the grass, and you can, if you don't know where they are, you can either step on one or trip over one. So I don't have to tell the lads to just.
They all just got chucked to the bottom of the sea because they were the wrong kind of metal and the government
That's right.
couldn't use them
Need
to
it
build
anyway,
the
didn't
ships.
Yeah.
They're just in the bottom of the sea somewhere.
Right. So it is quite a risky place to work.
We'll come back to the graveyard issue because I think you might be saying that we need to be starting to discuss and work towards some decision making on that particular responsibility. Are there any other questions that people have got for John whilst he's here? Chris?
Yeah, on our climate emergency working group, we've discussed trying to persuade Kirklees not to use glyphosate. We thought we'd better check with you whether you've used glyphosate. Fine. You never, sorry?
I've never used it.
Fine.
Is that a weed killer?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So on the council, spray the edge of pavements.
No, we don't use it.
You don't use it around the benches or like that?
No, we just dig the weeds out, straight them out.
Cool.
Yeah. That was from off.
Yeah.
Councillor Dixon?
Yeah, I've got a few points. I was going to mention about the toilets. I know that one of my friends was visiting them for last year at some point, and he did say that the toilets were the cleanest public toilets he'd ever used. And I thought it was a really good comment, and I want them to be aware of that. And if you do a really good job of it,
Excellent job,
yeah, you do. And without them, the Hunferth would be struggling. People would, when they did close for a few months, people were going and using different shops and different things like that, and there was causing issues with some of the shopkeepers and things. So it's a very good thing that we do. With the takings, a lot of people just carry around the cards now, so they don't have 20p's on them and things like that. And it has made me think like that. You do see at some public toilets now, like if you go to the seaside, they have them little things where you flash your card on it and it just takes off 20p or something like that. I don't know how expensive it would be to get something like that in. I don't know if it would be worth doing, and I don't know if it would get vandalised within a day of being there. It might be, all these things could happen.
Gansgrave, they've got one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's something that we might want to think about, because that might, the takings have reduced down considerably, and that might help it go up a bit. And if people want to give donations, they can do them. It gives them the other option, doesn't it? The other thing I was going to mention as well, in your report about the war memorials, you mentioned about the Heckworth Memorial, where some of the letters, the paint's gone from the letter on them.
Yes.
It actually was mentioned to me by Keith Griffin, the vicar, because when it's a Remembrance Day in Heckworth, he reads the names down from there.
Okay.
And when it gets a bit more down, they're just struggling to read it.
Right.
So it might be, it would be good if that could be filled in at some point if you're able to do that, John. But it's,
I've spoken to Jen about this.
Yeah.
It's not something I'm comfortable doing.
yeah, fair enough.
I think it's more of someone with a steady hand.
Yeah, no specialist, yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, fair enough.
We used somebody to do the War Memorial, didn't we? Recently, Rich commissioned somebody to do the War Memorial. It was you.
So, yeah, so the person who did the firm that did the War Memorial the Home Valley Memorial Hospital, they are recommended by the War Memorials Trust. We're not entitled to ask for a grant from the War Memorials Trust, but having now got this company that we know of, my intention is to get them to give us an estimate if they'll do the work. And then probably take it to, it does come up later in the agenda, because I've made some suggestions about it. But yeah, so, and I'm very aware that it needs to be done for remembrance someday.
Yep. Any other questions?
Just on the fact that you said that last weekend was horrendous, obviously, because, I mean, we all know it was Food and Drink Festival. I'm just wondering, would it be worth just, when there is these events on whatever, just suggesting that they do get portaloos, rather than just completely relying on the toilets that are there?
Clearly,
But
it wasn't enough. The toilet commission was nothing like
so,
enough this time, so they're going to have to.
I mean, I presume that's what you
Folk
would
fest-
prefer.
Yeah, the folk festival's fine. It's
Right.
just the volume of people that were there over the weekend, because it wasn't particularly brilliant, but it wasn't wet, was it?
No.
At the folk festival, people go in the pubs, don't they? So
Yeah.
these toilets in there.
Yeah.
These people are all outside.
Yes.
And a lot more are on the car park bit, whereas the folk festival, we're not all hanging around the car park bit, are they? So,
I mean, when that top end becomes your entertainment, whatever, when you've nowhere to park, you know what I mean? It's quite a distance from up there, all the way down into the centre for the toilets. So I'd be suggesting that if anybody starts saying that they're going to have events up that end now, that you get Old George Shaw and get some portables and cover it in your costs.
And I'm not sure, we don't actually license these events to be on, do we? But we can express, we could warn that the toilets will be closed, the public toilets will be closed, and ask, and also express our concern. I think I might say
I didn't realise you meant to close them.
No, I didn't say close.
No, just...
No.
Just as a thought, in addition.
As auxiliaries, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
extra toilets.
Okay.
It's probably just worth mentioning to Kirklees, because they'll license the events, and just say that before they license the events, can they actually suggest that they provide?
Should we ask Clark to write to both the organisers of that event expressing our concerns, and also to Kirklees asking how they would get
With the licenses.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. A question I've got, John. When we have been encouraging members of the council to raise, if they've got any concerns about any of the benches or whatever in their area or the bus shelters, to report them in, and then ultimately that comes through to you. Could you just explain to people how that gets dealt with, what the process is? So if someone raises a concern about a particular bench, how it gets dealt with in the process and how it gets reported back as well?
I usually get an email from either Rich or Jen telling me that someone's reported had a bench stolen, broken. I usually know which one it is before I see them come in anyway, because I know I keep my eyes open. But as soon as it's done, usually within a few days that they'll be reported, because I like things done fairly quickly when it comes to stuff like that. I just take a photograph of it, send it in, and it gets either put up on the website, or just let people know that it's been done.
Okay.
There was one at Home Bridge I saw on Facebook, so I tagged Rich in it through Facebook. He went and contacted John, and within a week or so it was fixed, and made some really nice feedback about it. So it's good when the public do let us know about these things sometimes. Or
Yeah, I don't like mangling about. I like to get them done. It looks good for us.
Thank you for that. Any other questions anybody's got? Yes, Andy.
Can I just ask, you talked about putting the plastic over the donations box, John. Have you done that recently, or was it?
The numbers?
No,
The plastic
to stop people.
barrier.
Oh, I did that earlier this year, but it keeps getting ripped off and broken, so I super glued it with super glue. It's in one piece now, but they tended to just try and get all the screws and snap the bond. I kept bringing it back. It's been in my mind. In fact, it's about 3 incarnations over the years.
So I wonder, it might be that we can look at sourcing a better style of donation box that might be a bit more secure.
Yeah, I thought about a funnel. I thought you could seal it off, and just a funnel big enough for a 50p piece to go through it easily.
And when you're talking about the possible refurbishment of the toilets, do the toilets themselves, do they need replacing?
No,
or are we just talking
the toilets
about...
are fine. The toilets are stainless steel. And people pinch bits off. Would you believe they pinch bits off the toilet? The porcelain knobs that you push in, the frame. People think, oh, it's a porcelain, I've got to pull it. No, push it. It's wonderful. They snap off and then they just drop them in the toilet, and then they've got to go in the bin. The caps, they have chrome caps on the hinges, and all but 2 have disappeared. That's 2, 4, 6, 8 caps have disappeared. So I bought some plastic to fit in them, so that you can't just see the nuts and the rusty nuts. The steel, anything. We installed the brass hook for keeping the door open the other day. I've gone through 4 aerosol dispensers, which are velcroed to the wall, right up by the ceilings. the steel, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Councillor Conley.
You were saying the floor needs to be less textured. Would polished concrete do it?
Yes. Indeed, yeah. Self-leveling floating concrete. Yeah. That would do it. Or, like I say, or a vinyl, seamless vinyl, which goes up over the wall, you can pressure wash and keep, you know. But the tiles that are down there now, they're inadequate for the job. They're just not fit for purpose. They're non-slippy, but you can't go through them.
Okay, so at the moment, you know, in addition to the action in terms of the what's happened last weekend and so on, which we'll follow up, we'll also, if everyone agrees, we'll ask Jen to look into, along with John, perhaps to look at an alternative in terms of how donations are taken. And that both includes quite a possible credit card reader that may or may not work, we don't know, but we can store it, and also a different coin box of some sort. And we'll also look into the need to perhaps refurbish parts of the toilet area and so on. Anything else that anyone thinks we need to take away from this? Okay. John, thank you for attending. Thanks for your report as well.
Just quite enjoyed it. No, thanks
And hopefully you will take away the comments that Tom Dixon's made.
Yes.
That's for your work, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
See you later.
Yeah.
John did that. You did that? Yeah, you did that, yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day who did that.
John.
Okay, moving on. I'm going to take item 42, which is the Youth Work in the Home Valley item on the agenda next. We will come back to some other things that have just been raised about maintenance contract in particular. I think about Newmill Churchyard, which is in the conversation we had. So item 42, is there anything you wanted to say on this? Or do you...
Just to say that a written submission has been placed in the pack, and in terms of what the committee has the power to do, you can recommend the release of the monies to an agreed schedule to the next full council meeting on the 9th of October. I've had a discussion with Rich about this, and he thinks if you wanted full council to release the whole of the monies available, then that's something you can consider tonight.
We had a working group set up. So Councillor Kirby was leading on. Do you want to report back on that?
Yeah, unfortunately the summer holidays got in the way a little bit, if I'm totally honest. I had a couple of meetings with Susan just to talk through what we were expecting. So mainly how the money was going to be used, how it was going to break down and what we were going to spend it on, and also then how we were going to report on success as we move forward. Had a good discussion with Susan. She promised to send me a draft report, but unfortunately didn't tell me she was then going on holiday for 2 weeks. So it got a bit delayed in the end. We did have a meeting last week of the Home Valley Youth Project last week. And it was discussed and a number of questions came out of that, all of which Susan was able to answer. I think the report was some way towards showing how the money is going to be broken down, what we're going to spend on youth work, also on other costs that need to be considered, and also KYA, if you like, Kirklees Youth Alliance's management fee for running all this for us. And it's broken down. The only thing I would say on the report that came out, and I spoke again to Susan about this and provided more information, she wasn't quite sure how to break down the costs for 23, 24 and 24, 25. So actually what I said was what we really should have done, because of starting around now, is we should have looked at a quarter, maybe quarter 4, then quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. The money is still spending as it is, it's just not represented very well in the document. Apart from that, I think as a whole, that most of the stuff that we discussed with Susan, she's given us the information that we needed. But obviously it's dependent on each individual as to what you saw from that report. I've been fairly close to it, so it's probably easier for me to say, as Doug's as well, but if anybody's got any questions, I'm sure between us we can cover them off.
Before I pose questions on this, I'm conscious that both Councillor Barnett and Councillor Green were also on this working group. Is there anything, is that right in thinking that?
Yeah, but we never actually met, so.
Right, okay.
No.
But Glenn's kept me updated with his progress and I'm happy with that.
You've nothing more to add, you wanted to add to that?
Nothing, I think it's just the work's being done.
Okay, because you went to a meeting as well, didn't you?
Yeah, put the question from us requesting, more details, so been positive.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody any other question? I've got a couple of questions. Has anybody else got any other points to raise or questions that we want to pose to either to Councillor Kirby? Dux is here as well to answer things. Yes, Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can answer this. I'm just looking at the costs. So we've got the cost for 23-24. Quarter 3, quarter 4 staffing is about 18,500. But the proposed for 24-25, the total for that is 18,000. So that's over the whole year. So why this year is it so much more for quarter 3 and 4 rather than next year where it's going to be about half the price?
To answer that, Councillor Dixon, it's the way that Susan's broken it down. What she's really giving you in that 23-24 is a cost for a full year. She's broken it down into half year rather than quarters. So it's purely and simply the fact that the sheet that you're looking at is not correct. So quarter 3 should actually be quarter 4 and should be the same amount as 24-25, if you see what I mean.
Right.
The only other additional cost in that, which again I suggested that Susan should have broken it down separately, is there's a £500 cost initially for IT equipment. So that's where you've got 18,500 one year and only 18,000 the year after. But again, that should have been broken down into a separate line, really.
So this is a bit confusing. So
yeah.
25,000 there which has been asked for.
Yeah.
But in theory, the 25,000 that we're going to grant that to them tonight, it's going to be spent in different ways perhaps than what's suggested on here. I'm not being stupid.
No, the quarter 3 and quarter 4 of 23-24, the quarter 3 is actually quarter 1 and 2, and the quarter 4 is actually 3 and 4 then, isn't it?
Well, it is, apart from the fact that if we give the money now, you would assume that actually what you're doing in 23 you pay for quarter 4, and in 2024 you pay for quarters 1, 2 and 3, if you see what I mean. But the amount will still be 25,000 just split down. Obviously it's for this committee to decide whether or not we're releasing the money in one go, whether or not we're going to release it on a quarterly basis or half-yearly basis.
Councillor Morgan.
I don't know if I'm doing a big thing, but I want to know actually what is the money going to? What are the projects that you're doing? You just talk about youth services, but there's you've outlined those 3 separate activities, 5 altogether. What are people actually doing?
Basically, all of the projects that exist that are supported have all got different histories and all got different funding. So, like Cafe 100 have raised money, they employ a non-qualified youth worker. They've struggled to recruit, they've now got a person in post. They pay a lower rate. The people who run the Phoenix Club are part of another larger organisation, Melton-based organisation, that run various youth projects across the north of England. And they use what they call JNC qualified. There's a qualification for youth workers, like for social workers and for teachers. So some people pay on different rates, and some people have got qualified staff, some have got unqualified staff, some are heavily dependent on volunteers, and the one at Waldale is purely volunteer-led, with nobody taking a penny at all. And they got a grant actually last year for £1,000, and £500 keeps the whole of the youth club going for a year, because they only need a contribution towards the rent.
And are they opening a youth club like one evening a week or something like that?
Well, the one at Phoenix is doing a junior and senior session once a week. And Cafe 100's hoping to open 2 or 3 nights a week. At the moment, they've just opened 1. Honley Youth have, Lindsay Betts' position to talk about this, used to have a worker on a significant contract who was doing like detached work in the park, but also they used a lot of their funds to bring in other project workers. And the club that's just literally reopened at Honley Community Centre, that Steve Knight's involved with, is like an open access youth club, a classic old youth club if you like. So they're all different projects. Now the idea with this worker is, this worker would primarily support Honley Youth, Cafe 100, and the project at Honley Community Centre. And there's a cash contribution towards the Phoenix activity. So you'll see in the budget, there's 3,000 goes to the Phoenix, because they've already got paid staff, they've got supervisors. But the other thing is that the worker's going to do is a lot of work with the schools, with the high schools, detached work, working with problem kids, helping develop programme activities, supporting and training youth workers in the other clubs. So it's quite a varied post, but by rolling it all into one post, you can actually attract somebody and pay them a half decent wage, which is what I think 18.5 grand of the 25,000 is basically salary costs for that individual. But it will support the youth projects in all 4 areas. Does that help?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
And they will actually be turning up and helping to run the youth club as well. So at Cafe 100, they get somebody helping them on a night or regularly. So they're not just working online at home and they're talking to people. They actually are a youth club.
Actually good, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Colling.
Just one question. Does any of this cover ground that was previously covered by Kirklees? I was wondering about the problem kids.
To speak very frankly about what Kirklees Council did to the youth service, I'm a very bitter ex-youth worker. The council had, Phoenix Club was open 4 or 5 nights a week. What's now Honley Village Trust, that was run as the council's youth club and only used really as a youth club with paid staff. That budget diminished over the years. They started to do a lot more targeted work, and then they basically cut the whole of the youth service. When they cut it all, they gave £50,000 to Kirklees Youth Alliance to try and pick up the pieces and try and support volunteers and community to run the provision. And that's what KOA still work on. They've been quite successful in attracting other funds, and there's some, like the West Yorkshire Mayor's got a big fund out at the moment, using proceeds of crime money to support activity. So they've taken that little bit of 50 and grown it. Then what happened was the councils, they got a new director of children's services who was shocked that the council had destroyed the youth service it had. And they've basically got a really small team doing things like holiday activity programme. They do a bit of detached work, but to be honest, nearly all their programme, unless Councillor Bellamy knows any different, it's pretty much all in Huddersfield and Dewsbury where the hot spots and the crime spots are, isn't it?
And Children's Services have now got a different director.
No,
Right,
yeah. The reason
the fact is there's nothing for them to collaborate with because there's hardly anything left to use.
But the reason I ask this is that certainly in finance and management we have, as you know, because you were part of the working group, we have a sort of rule, for want of a better word, guideline that says we won't do stuff that we think ought to be done by Kirklees. And I'm wondering if we are taking over Kirklees' work a bit. I don't mean with most of it, but how careful do we need to be?
Like, I guess that's a political decision for yourselves, but the fact is there is no youth provision that's provided by the local authority anymore. And what you have got in this area, as I said at the beginning, you've got 4 voluntary groups that are trying to fill that gap and trying to sustain things, like we have with the libraries. Arguably the libraries, should have been kept and sustained as they were. That isn't really the case anymore. So you are stepping in to fill a void, as you are with the toilets, as you are with this building. I mean, that's true for lots of things, isn't it? They're increasing by.
Okay, thank you.
But I think for clarification, it's not a statutory responsibility, I believe, for the district council.
No.
Well, yes, looking after problem kids is. That's children's
From a
services.
children's services point of view, there's not a legal requirement to run an open access youth service.
The children in need, I think, or child protection. Councillor Bellamy.
Yeah, thank you. It's more about the paid employee thing. I actually think that's quite a good idea if there is somebody that is qualified and paid for. I believe Conley's actually had a few problems over the last couple of weeks since reopening with, I don't know what, I don't like calling kids problem kids because I just don't think that's, kids just
Trouble kids.
well, I don't know, sometimes I think they just get bit off.
Children with problems.
Well, sometimes they just go a bit offside, don't they? But you know, you can't. And I don't think we
Define
should
what
tie.
a problem is.
Yeah,
Who
well,
defines it?
I don't think we should tie them all with the same brush at all. But so I do think because of that, and I spoke to Steve Knight actually only a few nights ago, so and he did tell me that they had a few issues. So I actually am sort of quite supportive of this because I do think if we've got that qualified youth worker that can go from one to the other and advise, and maybe then we can find out just why, you know, it might just get to that underneath reason of why these kids are doing what they are doing.
Councillor Green, did you have something you wanted to?
No, I was just, Doug said what I was going to say about, I don't see this being any different, taking on responsibilities, visibility and such.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon,
With Homley, and I know that before they did set up the youth club, the reason why it was set up originally was because they were having some problems and issues with some kids, and when the youth club was running, it reduced down the issues and the problems they were having. Doug, when you've been here before in your previous role as councillor, there was some points where the youth provision was a bit disjointed and people were doing things and other people were trying to do things at the same time. Would you say that them issues are a lot better now and people are trying to work together more as a team?
Yeah, what you said for benefit councillors that weren't around previously, which is most of you, there used to be an £8,000 pot, and basically all these 4 youth clubs all applied for it, all asked for £5,000, and obviously there wasn't enough money to give them all 5,000 because there's only 8,000 in the pot. What this proposal means is that they're actually all working together. So now, the group that's effectively chaired by Kirklees Youth Alliance that Glenn's attended and Isaac's attended, Councillor Charles Breves attends, but we also have representation from all the other clubs there. So they actually are now all collaborating together on this and working together. So that's progress, because otherwise you basically put a pot of money on the table and there's a bun fight and you can't keep everybody happy, can you? So I do think this approach is a much more strategic, joined up approach, if you like, to approaching it. And it also means that 25,000, I think in year 2, Susan's fairly, if we know that there's likely to be some budget next year, then that can be used to lever in other money and can grow. So it also means it's a much more attractive project for lottery funders and others in the future, I think. So I do think it's led to a spirit of collaboration that perhaps wasn't there before as well. So.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I think it's worth saying that we supported this even at the last meeting. The problem was that the document we had at the last meeting didn't tell us what we were going to get for it. And it would kind of give us money to spend 25 grand and it'll all be nice for youth. And we kind of, yes, okay. And I think what we've now got is, I'd like to propose supporting it, but we can decide how much we release at one time. But I think it's answered, for me, the difficulties I had in, what's going to happen with this money.
And I think just following on from that, I might have this wrong, but in terms of the key performance indicators, which I thought was helpful and much better than it was in the previous draft, I'm not sure that there's anything in there about getting feedback from the users of the service, as in the young people, which I think is great. I'm not sure there's anything in there from the organisations, unless I've overlook that.
Well,
So whether the, you know,
yeah,
the likes of Kathy
I think it probably needs to be stated, but I think that the proposal going forward would be that Susan would put in a report saying how the money's been spent and what the positives are from it, and that feedback would come from the users plus the various groups themselves. They would all be involved in feeding into that report. So they would be involved, but it probably needs stating that they're involved, their involvement directly.
I think it'd be worth stating, because picking up what Doug said, that, you know, everyone's involved, everyone's on board, that might change.
Yeah,
You know, so we want everyone to say, yeah, we're still happy with it.
Particularly the ones at the coalface, not just the leaders of the group.
Yeah. Anything else before I bring this to a conclusion? No? Okay. Doug, thank you for your attendance. And,
Yeah.
look at that.
I might stay around. There's some other items I'm curious about. I'll leave for the private items.
We need to, I think, so we have a resolution to consider actions regarding the budget and our youth working on.
So thinking about motion then, you might want to consider a motion that pays out monies in Q3 and Q4 as suggested in the report. So 14,000 for Q3 and then 11,000 for Q4.
Can I ask a question? Is any more needed for the first quarter than for subsequent ones, for any reason?
It's just the way it's laid out in the report, because it's just the way it's laid out there. Yes, the extra 3,000 is a contribution to enabling youth. So they're obviously getting at that contribution in Q3, but not Q4. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
So, Councillor Dixon.
I was going to propose that we release the funds, Q3 now, and then Q4 when it's after Christmas, I suppose. So that's my proposal.
I'll second that.
Okay, this is something we can do here.
Do you want to, because you've talked about wanting to get feedback from organisations, so are you wanting to tie in anything into the motion regarding reporting to the committee?
Yeah, just like a summary of what the money's been spent on and how things are going in general. It'd be good to have an update in January.
I assume that we can turn in the proposal that's come from Susan into a service level agreement or a contract.
We're doing it as a grant rather than a contract. And yeah, so that.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a contract type thing, a service level agreement. But I mean, we've got to give them the money.
I think this is the first year we've done it with them. We're giving out such a significant amount as this, so I think that do it as a grant for this year, but then consider out maybe next year. I'll see how it goes really.
And in terms of feedback, maybe we could start with quarterly and then look to getting it down to 6 monthly or even annually once it's rolling and we're content that it's moving forward. Because it's a bit of a burden on the administrators to turn up every 3 months to give a report, but initially I think it's a good idea.
Can I just check whether does this fit in with the employment of the youth worker in terms of the length of contracts?
Their commitment, in other words, to the employee.
Yeah. Would they be employed for say, I don't know, 6 months, a year? And then would they be guaranteed that money then?
Oh right, do we need to release? Or
if you're going to be employing somebody,
a year's salary, maybe that we need to do.
I mean, it's important to distinguish that Home Valley Parish Council is not employing the you know, so it is part of the beauty, if you like, of it being a grant is that it is you know, it's upon Kirsty's youth alliance who are in a better position to do that.
Do we also need to talk about the 24-25 as part of our motion? Because Doug's said, I think, that the promise of the 25 grand again for next year's funding means that that will be then giving them the ability to apply for other funds from lottery funds or whatever it is, and that without that we are then hampering them for their future fundraising. Good to me. It's no good saying yes, we'll do it for this next 6 months without talking about what we're doing for the following year.
I think we were just talking about when we release it, right? I mean, I think we're agreeing to the total sum, but just releasing those are the dates we'll release the quarters.
Right.
Can I just clarify something? I think the parish council, like Kirklees Council, who's got a problem, it hasn't set the budget for next year. It's useful to know there's an intention to continue if all things being equal, but you're not in a position to promise money for next year because you haven't set the budget. But I think there's a difference in the nuance about that. I think if we think this is the pathway and the likely, and that's as much as they could really say to another funder. But I think your hands are tied because you haven't set the budget. Is that what you're going to say?
Exactly what I was going to say. Thank you, Dennis.
Although, I mean, we are trying to move as a council to having that longer term commitment to the extent that we are able to help those organisations. And I think we include this particular arrangement as one of those, just as we are with the civic and the library. So, do we have enough?
Right. So you want a motion where you are approving the release of funds for Q3, subject to you have to get full council approval because of the amount of money involved. It's more than £5,000, so it will be after the 9th of October. But assuming that full council supports the committee on that, and then Q4 after Christmas, and then also just requesting a summary report that reports on the KPIs.
I have a sense that perhaps we do need to set out. I'm really conscious here of, I'm not being critical here of Susan, but it took a while to get the report, and I'm really conscious I don't want to be in the same position in the future of getting the update, the feedback reports as well. So I think I'd like to pin down what the expectations are. But I'm going to suggest here that we don't go into all this detail here in this committee. If you as a committee are happy, I'm going to suggest that Jane and myself tie up those details with Susan. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah. Any problems with that?
No, I just think it should be a quarterly report. I think we really do need to have Susan.
Quarterly report. Would you agree that we want to minimise the administration within that as well, the task, is that? As a principle, okay. So we're looking for some feedback, but not to make it too onerous, is that? Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We'll sort of pin down the detail. So it's all agreed in principle. We want to give them the money. We want to support this project. We want to tie down some of these details.
So you need a proposer and a seconder.
Tom's already proposed.
Yeah,
okay, Councillor Dixon, Councillor Barnett seconded.
Take a vote.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on. So I'm going to return to the order of the agenda. There'll be item 31 is minutes of the previous service provision committee meeting. We've all had those draft minutes. Any issues with them, Tom?
No.
Just apologies that they were so late coming out.
I know there's a couple of questions to ask in terms of matters arising from them, but just in terms of those minutes, are they approved?
Yeah.
Thank you. A couple of matters arising that I've got on them. The valuation of the civic halls in process. Have we that was being requested by the insurers. Is that moved on?
I'll find out and I'll email the committee.
Thank you.
Is it possible until we know the boundaries? Because there's an argument about the boundaries, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't know whether that's.
I think it could be a separate issue, but either way, I will find out and email the committee. So that's a task for me.
We were looking at the lists of assets described to ward councillors and so on. Have we managed to do that?
That would go out before the full council meeting.
Okay.
It'll be part.
This is the fixed assets, the benches and the shelters, etc.
Yeah, the asset map.
The asset map, and also that sharp spin down at the outside building.
Nothing. I've done nothing about that.
Okay, so
On
that's
the
standing.
meeting, yeah.
Okay. Anything else anyone wants to raise from those minutes? No? Thank you, let's move on. So we've got item 32, which is Service Provision Committee budget and spending statements. Do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, just to say thanks to Rich for preparing the financial reports. You'll see, if you look at the reports, that one of the reasons we're sharing this is, as a committee, you do need to monitor your potential overspends and underspends in order to manage your budget. I know there are further financial reports regarding specific budget lines that have been incorporated into the agenda later on at appropriate points. It's important that finance and management and indeed full council knows this committee is monitoring its budget. Yeah, those are the things I would want to say.
Does anybody want to raise any queries on this, make any comments? Okay. In terms of actions, just to note it for a moment?
So, yeah, you need a proposer and seconder, and then it just needs to be noted.
Councillor Kirby proposed, seconded Councillor Ransby, all in favour? Thank you. Nothing else on that item? No. Okay. Item 33 is looking at our priorities and proposed actions and programme. I would say in broad brush terms going forward, but also looking at our recommendations to full council in October from this committee. Now, I've put a briefing paper together where I've tried to draw together things that were raised from people and obviously thoughts from myself. I invited people to put in alternatives, but I'm still going to open this up to any, well, I think it's both amendments to what's there in those proposals, but also if anyone has got any additional things that they would like to see included in those priorities and programme. Does anyone have anything, can I just ask at this point, does anyone have anything to add in terms of other priorities, other items for the programme? Right, in that case, do you want to just lead us through the process?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yeah, so what I would say is the various recommendations put forward, they do need some reflection before considering these motions, because once a motion is voted on, they must remain in force for 6 months. So, although you could consider all the proposals as one job lot, which I think is one of the things I put, I would actually advise as your clerk that anything with a financial commitment, you just defer to your November the 6th meeting, which is when you're looking at your budget. What I think this document does in particular is it gives you as a committee wonderfully strong direction for how you are going to work, not just over the next year, but for your aims and objectives over the whole of this term, which I think is certainly to be commended. I thought it was a fantastic piece of work, Councillor Bailey. But I would just want to say, in terms of, take on board the direction set out, but the financial recommendations, I would defer till the 6th when you're considering your budget.
Any comments, any queries? Okay, in that case, I'm going to. Does anyone have any questions on any of this programme at all? Because this is a pretty major thing that we're looking at here. Conscious I'm very close to it because I'm very involved with this. But I'll happily speak to you or happily open the discussion. That's no problem.
I was just going to make a comment that, like to meet with stocks and stuff, I haven't done that yet. So some of the things are, they're thought-provoking, but I don't know what the answers are quite yet. So
the proposal is, you're absolutely right, and the obviously we have a meeting next week. You've expressed an interest, I know, in being part of that, and I'll invite other, other expressions of interest at the moment. There is that's going to go on with Stotts, but perhaps even more importantly with the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, with WICA as well. Our contract, as I understand it, is not with Stotts. It's actually, is that right? We don't have a contract with Stotts. We have a contract with WICA, who themselves then have a contract with Stotts, and we contribute the amount of I think of 23,500. I think it is. Up to now, I suspect those will go up.
All the costs are, and like what the options are.
No.
How flexible people are about changing.
Absolutely, and that's part of the reason for just proposing at this point. With what I'm putting forward is the idea that we look broadly at public transport, and it will take a little bit of time to do that. And there's been several, ideas put forward as to what might happen with that, and I know there's ideas on the case committee as well to look at that. So I'm proposing we will have that meeting with Stotts, and we will get more information. Oh, sorry, with WICA, and maybe with Stotts there as well. Get more information, see where we go next with that. But at the same time, parallel to that, we actually have a working group that starts looking at what we might do and reports back to this committee. Okay.
So one of the things you might want to consider is if you are all in agreement with the direction of travel set out in Councillor Bailey's document, that you consider that in terms of agreement in principle with that direction of travel. And then the key elements from Councillor Bailey's document can drop into that pro forma that the council chair wants you to submit for the October meeting.
Actions.
So,
do you want that as a motion?
I propose that.
do you want to watch the recording?
So you're approving the direction of travel?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very appropriate.
All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? One abstention, Councillor Bailey. Okay, in that case, we'll move on from that whole item of 33 on to 34, which is grant applications. We deal with a small number of the total number of grants. Planning, I think, also deal with a couple, don't they? I'm not sure. Anyway, we deal with a couple. Majority, no, sorry. Okay, and then the others are finance. So there are grant applications from Honley Business Association and also the Home First Christmas team. And so we'll deal with those first and then come on to the patient transport scheme, I think. Is that, yeah? Okay, so do you want to lead us through this, please?
Yes, so with both of these, you can not just consider the grant for 2023-24, but they are both possible candidates if you wish to award a rolling grant for the whole term of office of this council. So just be aware of that, and I'm hoping that everyone managed to see the revised performer that I sent out regarding a sort of generic rolling grant agreement, and also the one for the Home Valley transport scheme, which we'll come on to a bit later. So both of these Christmas grant applications do come from the Christmas provision budget line. Other expenditure from that line will come up as item 23-24-35. So of course what you need to be aware of is anything you are approving comes out of that budget, just to make that clear. And also just to say that we have received completed evaluations for grants given previously, both to Honley Christmas Team, Holmfirth Christmas Team and the Civic, but not for Home Valley Transport Scheme. Again, I'll talk more about that later. So both the grants from the Christmas provision budget line have been looked at, and in terms of making sure that the financial checks are carried out in advance of this meeting. Although you've been provided with redacted grant forms, the full paperwork has been shared with both the chair and vice chair of committee, so that you're aware of that.
So, to consider grant application from Honley Business Association. All in favour? Do you propose it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Propose, seconded.
I propose we approve both of these Christmas grants.
Okay, is it seconded? Yeah, that's a Rasmus. Okay. In terms of them of the rolling grant agreement, I'm sure whether we'll just get a sense of this.
Yeah, so one of the comments you made, I know in an email to me regarding this, Chair, was in terms of Honley, it does seem to be quite understandably from the grant application they put in that it's a bit of a moving target really, because they put in for 1,250. And they have talked in their application about the particular challenges Honley are facing. So it may be that rather than offer that as a rolling grant, that's something that could be reviewed in 2024, because it may well be what they are asking for as part of their Christmas provision may well change again in 2024-25.
That's very sensible. Is there any way, and I don't know how we would phrase this, we can say we intend to give you it every year unless something weird happens, but we need to see a new proposal until we can't agree on an amount. We'll give you what you've asked for this year, and we intend to give you money in the future. So make it rolling in the sense that they know they will get a grant.
Can I just clarify, so I'll come to you in a moment, can I just clarify that where we are looking at rolling grants for some organisations, that's so that they can plan ahead of it, and we've already talked about the Kirklees Youth, Civic Hall's another example of that possibly. In this particular case, with these types of grants, it's more for convenience, isn't it? And to reduce admin.
It was to reduce their time primarily. We suggested it to reduce their time and ours on looking at it in detail every single year, when practically nothing changes. Amounts may change, but just say we want up-to-date financial statements, and that's enough really. That was the idea, to make it easy for the applicant.
Did you want to clarify anything?
Yeah, so just to say it was really also it would work because what's being asked for 1 year mirrors what's been asked for in another year. So that was the point of the rolling grant, in that why ask people to do a full application each year when actually there are just specific things we do need to see on an annual basis. But given that these are volunteers, why would we want them to have to sort of repeat previous
Exactly, to
work?
simplify it, because the applications can be time consuming.
Okay, thank you. So Dixon.
Yeah, but as well, they also can be different every year. Like the holiday application this year is a bit different what they're asking for. Normally they've asked for money for trees or for lights and things like that. This year it's more for the event. And the first one as well, and I think it's good getting the report that we get every year in the grant. And I think by now we should be pretty confident that we're going to give them money every year, because we have them pretty much for the last 10 years to both of these schemes. So I think it's okay as it is.
Without moving on to the rolling.
Yeah, I think it kind of is a rolling contract, because we kind of are going to do it every year, but it's useful for us to see what they're going to do with it and what people ask us about it, rather than just giving £1,000 and they don't want to
Can I just let Councillor
Just to quickly answer, the idea of turning it into a rolling contract rather than a yearly grant was to save them doing a full application every year. Rather, I mean, I think they know we're going to give them the money.
Yeah.
But it was to save them going through all the hoops and just doing, here's the latest set of accounts and here's the latest list of trustees or directors or whatever. And that's pretty much all, It was to simplify their process.
I'm a bit with Tom on this one, because, like I said, the Holney one this time is more for the event rather than trees and lights. And I actually don't think the Holney one or the Hobart one should be rolling, because when all said and done, that they do shake the bucket and do the rest anyway at these events, so they are trying to also fund themselves. And I've always seen this as more of a top up, just so they can keep doing Christmas lights and the Christmas events and stuff, because they should be actually taking money as well at their own events to help. So I wouldn't consider rolling. I think it should just be every year for that reason, because things can be very, very different. You know, if somebody offered them £1 million for some reason, like say somebody won lottery in Onway and said, here's £1 million for your Christmas next year, which could happen, you never know. That might win lottery, you never know. But, you know, then they'd be coming and say, well, we only want £50.
But we wouldn't give it to them. Just because we've agreed to rolling doesn't mean we always give them everything they ask for.
But I think it's good to have the report every year to see exactly what they're doing.
This is not a firm proposal at this point, is it?
No.
I think we're testing the water here, and I would say there seems to be mixed feelings. Does anyone else want to say about this?
So if it's a rolling grant, then it doesn't mean that, are you saying that it doesn't mean that it's necessarily rolling, that at some point that decision is made?
It's a rolling grant application, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
a
Is it about
simplified.
earmarking? Is it about
The only
earmarking?
difference is it's a more simplified application process.
Yeah.
It's still an application.
Yeah, so they still have to go through that
But
decisions.
they don't have to go through describing the whole palaver, they just go through a shortened version.
So will we still have this discussion in 12 months' time about whether they get the money?
I think James got information here.
Yeah, so you're considering the application. You've already approved application for both of them for this time for the amount asked. Now it's really a rolling grant agreement. So on the basis of what you have seen, are you willing to consider a proposal to give the same money to these organisations for the same provision for the rest of the term of this council? And my advice, I think, would be, given the discussions about Hunley and how that, you know, what they have asked the money for, certainly you might want to not consider that for a rolling grant one, and on that basis, I think, given the differences in feelings, this is one to just park. You've discussed it. I don't think you're going to necessarily come to a unanimous version, certainly.
Councillor Rashford.
I mean, we're not actually earmarking money for next Christmas 24. All we're indicating, as I understand it, by family, home faith and homily, is in principle, we will repeat a grant of an application, some unspecified. It could be anything from £1 to whatever. All we're saying is, you are a body that we will grant aid for the work you're doing. That's it. No more, no less.
Thank you for that. Right, I'm going to take Jen's advice, I think, on this. You know, which is that there are mixed feelings about it. You know, we've taken that. Let's, to use your words, let's park it for the moment and look at a future time. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. And this other half of this item is about the Home Valley Transport Scheme.
We approved the grant then for...
Oh, sorry, with the grants?
Yes.
So this is the first rolling grant to be approved, and that happened at full council on the 6th of February 2023, when it was resolved to approve a service agreement of £1,000 with Home Valley Patient Transport Scheme for 2023-24 towards the provision of patient transport services throughout the Home Valley. So that's already, you know, that is already confirmed. So an item for this meeting is to set up a simple rolling agreement stating the nature of the service to be provided for the next 4 years, including simple monitoring and auditing arrangements. So I've shared previously the Home Valley Transport Scheme rolling grant application, but I've also emailed it out to you today, a slightly amended version, which was done at the suggestion of Councillor Bailin, and it ensures that, you know, that there is a sort of proviso in it, really, to make sure that if the council's circumstances change or the information needed wasn't forthcoming, that the agreement to provide the £1,000 each year could be broken. So I just wanted to draw people's attention to that. The change that was made is Home Valley Parish Council reserves the right to terminate this agreement prior to May 2027 if the stipulations within the agreement are not met, or should it be obliged to do so due to any unforeseen circumstances beyond its reasonable control. Now, the only issue with this one is that we've not yet received an evaluation from the transport scheme of how it used its grant for last year. However, as I've already said, this is, you know, you are giving a grant to them because that's already been approved by a former council meeting. So, has the rolling grant agreement as presented, do you think that meets the stipulations, really? That's what you're agreeing, whether you think that is a sufficient document for this rolling grant.
Anybody have any questions?
Doesn't a lawyer need to look at it?
No, because it's a grant rather than a contract.
Thank you.
It's a bit vague, the form of filling in. It's lacking a lot of information. I don't know if, did they provide any more information with it?
Well, this is to put forward to them. So I have emailed them regarding this to get their comments, and they know it's coming to you for your comments. So clearly, they need to complete this.
Oh, right, okay. That's
So
right.
Yeah, it's
we're
not
signing this
completed
one.
yet. Yeah, you're not signing the actual formal, you're signing
Yeah.
the, you know, in principle, if you like.
Okay.
Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Christmas trees. No joy. Okay, you've all hopefully know about what's the backs and forwards on this and so on. I'm going to suggest to you there's two bottlenecks to this. One is that it is costing us more this year because of various reasons that have already been shared with you. And whether we approve the extra spend going on or the recommendation that we draw on reserves, I think that's going to recommend it to the full council.
Yeah, it would have to go to full council because it's looking to use general reserves.
The other issue is, I think, for me, this has raised the fact that, you know, it's a right dog's breakfast, it's a right dog's breakfast is this business of, in terms of what's allocated to who around the villages. If anyone has any information, thank you to those who did respond to my question about, you know, what do you know about the tree in your area and so on. But if anyone's got any other information as to why one village gets a fully installed tree from Kirklees, another gets just a cut tree, and yet another doesn't get a tree at all, please share.
Right, so the trees provided by Kirklees, the big ones that we've had before. Actually, I don't know why. I think that's been going on since before I joined the council. So the places always had the big trees, and then the places that got the smaller trees that we provide, like Inchcliffe, Humbridge, Homeless Goals, and Upper Font, it's because they started asking for them. So like 1 year, like Inchcliffe Miller asked for one, next year Humbridge asked for one, and we kind of thought, yeah, let's do it. So that's what I did. I'm very sure you didn't say that.
The Christmas trees
Yeah.
from Kirklees originally came out of ward councillors' budgets, and then 4 years ago, highways took over and provided highways.
Not
Well,
cars.
who else? Why not?
I thought it was cars.
Highways paid for them. And then, and I don't quite get why all of a sudden they stopped coming out of what council's budgets, but they used to do, because so did hanging baskets as well. And then, like I said, for some reason, highways all of a sudden decided, oh no, we could provide Christmas trees and put them in millions of different places.
So the answer to your question is a mere caprice.
My other question is, I know Kirklees have said, well, they'll provide Huddersfield and they'll provide Dewsbury's, which makes a lot of sense, I suppose, in a way. But why are they providing Batley's then if they won't provide Overheads? I'll be asking that question.
Because we don't have parish council to pay for it.
There's a town
Well,
Does Batley have a town council?
Victor, I don't know if Batley does.
No, Batley doesn't.
Two of the district councillors have stepped up and said that they will fund this out of their ward budget. So that effectively offsets. It's not exactly right, but it basically offsets. Councillor Crook and Councillor Davis. So it offset, if you like, that gap in terms of the £1,000 odd tree.
It does, although I got something wrong on the agenda, because when I read the email regarding Councillor Davis and Councillor Crook funding out of the ward budget, I misread it that they were going to fund a tree each. In fact, they're funding one tree. So I do need to make an amendment to the expenditure table that I put here, because I thought that the parish council would have to find funding for 3 trees, 3,300. Actually, it's 4 trees, 4,400. So the amount of money that would need to potentially come from general reserves would be £1,849.31.
Can I ask a question? Have other Kirklees councillors been made offered the opportunity to make a similar donation.
And, well, when you say offered the opportunity, you mean that we invited them to do that?
Yeah, no, just say, this has happened.
I was just going to say, where are the 4 trees that we're talking about?
Brockholes, Neverthorne, Newmill and Wardale. Home Firth traditionally we used to get the Home Firth tree for free, but we'd pay for the other 4. So I don't think much has changed with that if the Kirklees Council is going to pay for the Home Firth one. So, but I think the only thing that may have changed is that the prices might have gone up a bit as well.
So Home Firth is 1, Brockholes, Netherthorne, Newmill and Wardale. Those are the 5 trees traditionally supplied by Kirklees.
Right.
Of which we pay for 4.
Of which traditionally we pay for 4.
I need to see Councillor Greaves and Councillor McGrath, and I should be seeing, actually I'll be seeing Councillor Greaves definitely on Thursday. I'll have a conversation about Brockholes.
You'll see tomorrow. Yeah, right, tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I will. Yeah, thank you. I'll see Councillor
He doesn't
Greaves
miss a
tomorrow.
trick.
I don't even know what meeting I'm in. I've been at work all day as well, so
Sorry.
I'm absolutely...
Okay.
I'll have a conversation with Councillor Greaves tomorrow when he comes here and see if we can get some agreement between us. But it's got to be, all 3 of us have got to agree.
Yeah.
But if I push, I know Councillor McGrath will agree with me, so he gets no choice, gets out.
So let me put this to the meeting. It's too late for us to sort out, you know, the why, who gets what and so on.
Yeah.
So I'm proposing we just go with the allocation as it is for this year. We are not trying to deprive any of the villages, you know, from having trees and so on. We just need to sort it out, make it fairer, basically, and more rational. So we will do that in time for next year, and I'll work with Jane on this and so on, and we'll try and unravel this and come back with a report. In the meantime, we do have to make a decision financially, don't we? Accepting what Councillor Bellamy has said, which might change the situation, but I suggest that tonight we actually take a vote. You correct me if you think differently. In terms of that principle.
I was going to propose that we agree to spend the amount you just read out, not the 749, but the revised one for 4 trees. And if a 4th tree is otherwise funded, we won't spend all of it.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been,
And thank you.
yes.
But like I say, I'll have to touch Councillor Greaves
Proposed
on
by
this one.
Councillor Colleen, was that seconded by Councillor Dixon? Not sure. All in favour? Thank you. Moving on, item 36 is Honley Library. We have a report for consideration, which we're invited to note and to consider any further actions regarding Honley Library. You want to speak to this?
Yes, so it's well asked to noting the report. Having had a good look through the report, I know one of the things that Friends of Honley Library wish the committee to consider is to note that 3 windows are being replaced instead of 3 skylight windows installed as part of the £10,000 grant that Energy Conservation received. So it's a change of use of grant.
Can I speak to that? It was granted to give greener and better windows. They're just changing which windows, essentially.
I'm aware that there's also been some discussion at the case committee as well about Honley Library and some ideas that have been floated around as well, which I thought were really interesting. But that's not here for any decision or anything like that.
Yeah. So that's to note. One of the things I know Friends of Honley Library want to stress is that they are very keen for as many members of this committee as possible, if they have time, to go and see their extension plans. Now that's going to be particularly important because those plans are going to be something they will submit to the November the 6th meeting, and therefore you'll be taking a vote on those plans, one way or another, at the November the 6th meeting. And if
Sorry. We may not, because Jenny is a bit previous. we haven't even put in a grant for the money, an application for the money. So what we would be suggesting is the principle of building an extension if the funds can be raised. You know, it will be probably as vague as that. In terms of the extension, but it is worth going to look at the plan.
Would it be convenient I mean, if several people want us to, obviously we don't want everyone going separately, it's just not fair on them, so I'm just thinking about whether
Maybe
actually
people
invites.
want to liaise through me.
Yeah, okay, people want to express an interest in going to see the plans, and we'll see if we can find a single date or something that can be made available. Either there or here, presumably. It'd probably be easier there. Yeah.
Can I just ask, is she planning on taking them plans to the Ask Conley events that come
Well,
up?
there's
And give them
quite a
plans?
few stages before that almost. There is no point in taking it to anybody until they know if they're going to get some money to build it, to be brutally frank. It just fills up people's agendas. They are telling us, because we own the building and they're being courteous, and I did say to Jenny, I don't know why you've raised this at this stage, but she has. And so they're just kind of saying, here's what we want to achieve. It could be 3 or 4 years hence before anything happens. So we're not hiding it from us, Conley, in any way, shape or form. And there have been people in and out of the library, various groups of volunteers and the Friends of Honley Library and all sorts of people have been shown the possible. There are 3 or 4 different designs. So it's not being held back from us, Conley, or anybody else. It's just that at the moment, they've got the architect's plans for nothing. They got pro bono, so they've spent no money on it at all.
I just wonder if she's going to bring them to the 2 drop-in events, that's all. I'll see Jenny before then anyway.
Yeah,
I
I don't know whether she's planning to, but to be perfectly honest, showing all the different designs to Oz Conley, the Friends of Honley Library haven't agreed on which design they are going to recommend, so I'm not sure it's a particularly good idea. But if you feel it's really important, you know.
I don't know, like I say, I'll probably see Jenny anyway on the...
Well, she's oversharing at the moment. I mean, we don't need 300 suggestions about, I like this one, but I think they should add that bit from this one onto that one. And, which is what people do, so.
She contacts me about grants.
But they're looking at different sources of grants. This is loads of money. I mean, this is big money. So this could be some time, but it is their aim. But if you think it's appropriate to go to Ask Conley,
Well, like I said, I'll probably see her anyway at the next Ask Conley planning meeting, so I'll find out whether she's gonna, whether she is or not, because we've got the dates for the Ask Conley drop-ins, which are the...
Yeah, I've got them in my
I'm going to move us on, okay, because I'm really conscious of the time here. Do you want, is that enough for now? We don't need to make any other decisions at this point, I don't think.
No, you just need to take a vote on noting about the 3 window replacements.
Okay. Yeah, noted. Thank you. The Civic Hall. There's an application that has come in that you've seen, which is for. Did you look at this one? Yeah, this one. For £12,500. It's an application for £12,500 for the repair to the. Am I right in thinking this is the bit out the side of the main hall? Is that right?
I thought it was this bit on these stairs here.
I thought you just said a bit on the stairs here, it's the linking bit, isn't it? Is it the flat roof bit?
Linking between. There's 2 flat roofs. There's one out the front and one out the back, and they're both legal suits, basically.
Okay. Is there anything that Do you want to say anything on this? I know
We're
Councillor Wilson's
waiting
already-
for a detailed report from the architect, or that was the information we had at the last trustees meeting. In the meantime, this building is just going to soak money, basically. It's in a bad state, and I think we're going to be firefighting as owners for some time, regardless of what the architect proposed as long term. We have to get this building back watertight. I spoke to they employed a company to clear some valley drains, and apparently the state of those was quite revolting, to be honest with you. It was just a lake, and it had been a lake all through the summer, and it was leaking everywhere. It's yeah.
Can I ask why now? Why it's only at least one of those leaking flat roofs. I saw months ago. I was there with you. And why now? Why ask now at this point? Why not wait until next year?
It's starting to affect it. It's leaking into the building and affecting the interior. So that's why there's some urgency.
Yeah, I've got two points to make regarding that. One of the reasons why they've not come forward before is there was some wrangling going on with the contractors that had done previous work as well. So they were trying to sort of ascertain whether that person needed, whether it was a case of the previous contractor needing to write the work they'd done. So that was one part of what was being investigated. The second thing to note in terms of why now is that the insurance on the Civic is invalidated regarding flood risk due to the issues we've got at the moment with the leaks, and that obviously is a concern. You know, so we are not covered in terms of flood because of until such a time as that leak's been repaired. If I can just say, I know that Councillor Kirkby did the financial check for me regarding this, and one of the issues he raised was the fact that within the grant application papers, we didn't have the three estimates on which the 12,500 was based on. So I've raised that today with the Civic, and I also said, and also, where is the architect's involvement in this? And this is the response that Dawn has sent me, which she knows I'm sharing with you. We started the process of collecting quotes before we had the services with the architect confirmed, and before we started with the issues in the kitchenette. We have had 3 quotes, but only one of them is for both roofs, and that is what the 12,500 is based upon. So it's just the contractors or possible contractors that have done that quote. Once we had the services of the architect confirmed and he had done his initial visit, we asked him if he would be prepared to project manage these works so that we had more comfort that the works would resolve the issues we've encountered. And obviously it answers the whole listed building questions as well, although as I understand it, the parts that need to be repaired aren't part of the listed building. He is prepared to do that, but only on the basis that he does his own specification for the works needed and seeks quotes accordingly. Trustees have agreed to proceed on that basis, so we don't know for sure what the ultimate cost will be, but wanted to get an application submitted so that works could commence as soon as we can and not be delayed if we had to apply later once actual amounts were known. So this is about getting, being in a position to get started as soon as possible, which certainly as your clerk, given that we do not now have that flood insurance because of this, is something that I would, want you to consider very seriously.
Any other questions?
So the grant request for 12,500 is based on the old quote. So if the architects are project managing it now and they're looking for different quotes, we don't even know if that's going to be enough to cover it.
No.
So it's a bit of a mess. We can say to them today, right, we can give you this money, but we don't know if it's going to be enough and there might be more needed. And I don't know what to think really, because like originally if they'd gone and got 3 quotes, couldn't we have used one? I don't know what to say.
I think Councillor Dixon's absolutely right, and I think it's a very strong argument for making sure they do have project managers, because sadly, a lot of this mishmash has been because somebody who isn't really qualified to be a buildings project manager has been doing her best to be a buildings project manager, and her best has been as good as we could possibly expect, but she's not a buildings project manager, so I think, you know, if there's a fee involved in pay, I mean, the thing where he says I'll be a project manager as long as I get my own way, I've got my doubts about, but there is a need for a project manager for this building, somebody other than poor Dawn, who frankly isn't, you know, she wasn't employed to do that. She was employed to raise funds, it's not her fault.
Sorry, that's great.
I'm not still confused after 6 months. Is it ultimately our responsibility?
Yes.
This building?
Yes.
And
We own
the
it.
steer that Councillor Ransford seems to be suggesting is that we're going to be sending good money after bad for a long time.
I think because in a sense we haven't taken control or haven't kept decent control of what's going on, we have been spending bad money after bad money. I think we now need to take control and acknowledge it is our building. And we are ultimately responsible for making sure it's watertight. And we've not had that control. And I think what the architects they've got in now, one are a reputable company. The previous work has always been piecemeal. They've had a contractor in to do this, and then someone's come in to do something else, and someone's come in to patch up the work that's done by a builder 4 years ago, and it's all just running to stand still. Whereas no one's actually kept a complete log of what needs to be done and have a programme of maintenance.
Well, there have been 5-year plans and things, but they were a bit airy-fairy. But I think I'm concerned to hear you say good money off the bat, because it has been piecemeal and not well run. And it will continue to cost us quite a lot for the foreseeable future. And by the foreseeable future, I mean 20 years, I would guess. Yeah. And I think it's worth it, because we offer to the Valley a facility that nobody else does, large rooms to do the sorts of things you can do in this building, and there's no other facility available like it. So we are investing in the community, but it will cost a lot of money for a long time.
That's a great.
A separate issue, myself and, well, we met with a guy called Robert Green, who works with Kirk Police Council to do with climate emergency, and he brought to our attention a government scheme called the Public Sector Decarboniser Scheme, which potentially we could apply to for this building and all our other exits to make them more energy efficient. Now, the big kind of thing that gets mentioned and shoved under the table is the boiler for this building. So basically you can apply to this scheme on two levels. Firstly, to get proper energy assessment of the building and recommendations, which might tell us whether
we've already had that done both for Honley Library and this building about 18 months ago.
Well, they may be good, or it may be that if you're applying for this government money, you have to get a government recommended person to do that assessment. But I'm sure the information from those previous assessments may help us get the bid for that. assessments. But, so that's something I would like to recommend we pursue. And whether we do work, I don't know whether we do the work or the clerks do the work or the civic do that work, because I know I can't do the work. I've had a quick look at the application form. It's massive, but
Can we ask that this perhaps be talked about with Dawn and we might explore it?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, there is a management team and we put them in so that we, the council, would not spend time running this building. Now, sadly, a key member of that management team resigned.
Okay, good. What can we decide tonight? One of the other issues that we've got here is that we do have this responsibility, but it's not a bottomless piece of money. You know, there may be a point at which people say this is unaffordable. That's the sad reality. I'm not suggesting that is the reality. It was one of the reasons for us being clearer going forward as to what our fund is, what our budget is, and that is set. No, it may be that we say, look, you know, if that money is being used this year, should it come out and should it be in advance effectively from next year's allocation? Just a suggestion. Councillor Dixon.
If you don't spend money on these things, it gets worse and worse, and then you end up having to spend more to fix it.
Yeah.
So we need to get it fixed. So for that reason, I don't know if we can approve the grant though, because without the quotes and the different things, it's complicated. I don't know if we could be in breach of our conditions and.
We can refer this on to F&M as well, can't we?
But they're in the same position unless we can get some indication of cost.
I'm in favour of the works, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'd also be interested as well because I've seen looked at the grant form and the Civic Hall group have got 100,000 on in reserves at the moment. So they do have considerable funds. Is that right, Steve?
It's first I knew when I read this report that we had £100,000 in reserves.
So part of us thinking, unless it's all assigned to different projects and the money's it's there, but it's already supposed to get spent on different things. So but I'm in favour of doing the work.
I think we delayed giving the money for the youth services provision because we weren't satisfied with the way that had been applied for. I think the same applies to this £12,500.
Yeah, but we're not insured until it's done.
But but the money can actually be drawn from their reserves.
Yes,
is the suggestion. If it's an emergency required.
Yeah, and if we want, we could possibly pay it afterwards, or if they don't get some more detailed information to us by full council, we could do it then perhaps.
But between now and full council, there's an awful lot of rain coming, and leaks, in my experience, only ever get worse.
But the money is there if they need to draw it. I'm not saying we don't.
If they've got 100,000 in their reserves, then they have to dip into it.
And then they could always apply to us for
Yes.
12,500 or more money for a different project, couldn't they?
Yeah.
To cover what they've taken out of the reserves.
Yes, whatever they were planning to do.
I mean, really, you're right, it needs doing with straight away, so if they've got money in the account, get it dealt with and then apply for something.
Okay, yeah. The recommendation in front of us for us to consider is that we recommend to full council payment of £12,500 general reserves to cover the grant application. That's perhaps can it?
You might want to amend that then, because actually I'm sensing the feeling is you're not necessarily wanting to go with that grant application, but you are very willing to identify money to be spent on necessary roof repairs, subject to receiving adequate plans.
And I think to put what Chris mentioned into the mix as well, because they have this decarbonisation grant that allows authorities like ours to actually get money. Should be looking at that, shouldn't we? Really?
I think that's separate from the leaks, though, isn't it? I mean, I think
It
that's
is
another motion we can pass now.
Yeah.
In a
Oh
minute.
yeah, no, I understand that.
I
but
think we need to deal with the leaks, and then we'll. I agree.
So before you go to a vote on this, just subject to receiving adequate plans, I think you just need to think about what that means who's going to be the judge of that? You know, so what is it you're wanting before the money can be released?
Well, I'm concerned here because I don't think we can wait to release money or make them release some of their money is what we really want to happen, isn't it? We want to say we're happy to pay for this, but you've got to pay for it in the short term because you haven't given us any details.
Guys, it's 9 o'clock. Are we in favour of?
I was going to say though, it's grants over £5,000 need to be approved by full council anyway, so we couldn't approve 12,500 until the next full council anyway. So if we do get the relevant information and the forms, then I think we suggest that we're in favour of repairing the roofs and giving money towards it, subject to having this sufficient information at full council.
In principle, or with a figure attached to that?
Well, I wouldn't like to say a figure because it could be more than what we've. It could be more.
Can we not get three? Can they not
Sorry,
get
can
three?
I just that's
I was going to say, can we not ask the management of the Civic to get 3 quotes and present that to full council?
Well, this was going to be via the project.
It's this project manager, the architect. Yeah.
Well, if the project manager won't do it, they'll have to do it themselves because we are saying, as the builders owners, we want the roof repaired, we want details of how much it will cost, and we want it done quickly. And I think we want to say it quite firmly.
The free quotes thing normally is when the parish council doing work ourselves. As this is giving a grant out to the Civic Hall Trust who are doing their work, we don't really need the free quotes. So if we are getting the architects to provide the people that are going to manage it, then it would just be given a grant towards the project, and then it's for us to see if we think the figure is reasonable. If the contractor comes back and says, "Oh, it's going to cost you £200,000 to fix this," we might think again. But like that's what I mean. We need to. We don't need the free quotes. That's what I'm trying to say.
But that's the same as the fire escape. That cost more than was originally quoted.
Yeah.
We still ended up paying for it.
Yeah. It could be the case. Yeah, probably the case.
There were other angles to the fire escape, I think, in terms of who requested it.
Yeah, but there was also the suppliers messing about.
Okay, so what you're really looking for then, I think, is a motion where you are looking to recommend to full council funding for roof repairs for the Civic, subject to receiving adequate information regarding those.
Yeah. All in favour? Against? Anyone? Abstentions?
Do you need one of us to propose that rather than Jen?
Oh, in retrospect. Okay, I'm going to keep us moving as quickly as I can, please, because I'm very conscious of the time. So moving on from there's nothing else to note. Oh, we're noting the latest report from the trust, from the Civic Hall Community Trust. We've already
Yeah.
Are we doing something about pursuing the public sector declarations?
Yeah.
Yes, we asked that Jen talks with Dawn to explore that as an option. Is that right?
Yeah. Got that.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a matter of urgency. I think, well,
I suspect
she
it'll be a
is
long-winded
qualified
process.
to do
Well,
that. That's what she was
On the
employed
matter of
for.
urgency, for the current round, you'd have to have your report ready by the 6th of October, which would be
So
best
that's
in the
not
world.
gonna happen.
Nobody could, but they've done it every year for the last 3 years, so
Yeah.
something to explore for.
But that is Dawn's expertise. She
Yeah,
was
yeah.
employed to do grant applications and things,
Right.
so it's in good hands.
Okay.
I'm just having a look, Chair, to see what we might defer.
Dog food strategy.
Come on!
Did you refer that to a meeting when I'm not here? Because I've discussed that for so many hours.
We can defer, I suggest that the stuff from the graveyard.
Yes.
Okay. Gardside buildings we need to consider. And we need to set up a working group for the for the buses. And that's probably about it, I think. Okay?
Yeah, the other stuff will wait for,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, so,
You're not leaving before the dog poo.
we're not doing dog
And we're not doing it.
Now you know we're not doing dog poo, you're going home.
Is that okay?
So, Gartside Buildings?
Gartside Buildings.
Right, shall I stop the pen?
Yes.
Tom, that 100,000 last meeting, financial report.
It does say on the grant that there's 59,000 restricted, so that would be a reserve for
Of all the bus stops,
About the different bus stops.
this is the one in the middle. It's the one right in the middle of Holly, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're thinking of. So a proposal has come to, which you've all seen, from the from the gardeners thing, isn't it?
Friends of Conley.
Friends of Holly. That there would be a sedum tray. We were waiting for a bit more information. I'm not sure if that's arrived yet.
Well, we
We don't have
can
costs or
approve it
anything
in
like that.
principle, can't we?
Yes.
Are people happy in principle? I did have a question as to who would maintain it.
The Friends of
Friends
Holly
of
are
Holly,
very good, they maintain the graveyard.
Okay,
Look,
they do.
Chris knows all of them, they maintain half the village, the Friends of Holly.
No, there's a serious point in the sense of, we're responsible for the bus shelter. If someone climbs on top of the bus shelter,
Yeah.
what are the implications of that, both for that person and the bus shelter?
Well, the Cedar Ridge too
I'd
heavy.
rather throw in seeding plants and slates, so actually some plants.
Right.
The person who gets up every autumn to nip out the sycamores.
So, do you want to consider recommending that the Climate Action Communication and Engagement Committee take up this stone shelter in Honley as a potential project, adding a sedum roof to the stone shelter in partnership with, it's not Honley Village Community Trust, sorry, it's Friends of Honley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Friends of Honley are part of Honley Village.
We're agreeing this in principle without actually committing any financial
Yes.
funding of it, okay? Councillor Dixon?
I was going to say, do we need to discuss the war memorials, because it was mentioned about
Oh,
the
yes,
lettering.
getting it repaired.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll get that done before the remembrance day.
Yeah, we've got to get it done.
Yeah, so I'm, so right, so we've agreed the other one, approved that. So this is recommending to full council spending of up to 500 from general reserves through the budget line 4750 war memorials for upkeep of the Hepworth Memorial. And then second part of this motion is to authorise spending up to 500 in consultation, for the clerk to be able to authorise spending up to 500 in consultation with the chairs of committee for that repair. Because I've still got to get the quotation through
Yeah.
for it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, done.
In favour for a vote, second. Okay. Right, we're done?
Think so. Just check.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your